Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast with me, Imperial Dane, straight from the Ministry of Propaganda here in Denmark. And today we have for you another 1 versus 1 on Egletons. Yes, indeed, it is Egletons once more. Another look at this rather interesting map, rather different, of course, from all the other maps, being partly due to the fact that it's in one side incredibly open terrain with a few fences, but really nothing that really prevents some serious harassments towards these 4 strategic points of great value. In fact, controlling pretty much all of the resource flow on this map. At the same time, the entire half of the map is covered in dense urban area, of course, also making it a bit harder to hold in that sense, because you can perhaps try and sneak about the more open route, but at the same time there are so many things to say about this map. And let's not get stuck there, but instead have a look at our opponents. We have in the northern...
sleeping, it's all the same to me.
Yeah, I do believe I've forgotten about this. My apologies. There we go. But Mr. Itaperuna in the northern half of the 1st Infantry Division, ready to lead the fight for Uncle Sam. And who shall be facing him? None other than our friend Major Gaurav of the Panzer Lehr, ready to hold the line and perhaps push back those dastardly Yankees. Of course, we shall have to see how that will work out. Anyhow, let us get on with this, shall we, my good viewers? And of course, we have a bit of quiet at the moment as we're seeing the usual engineers, barracks, Wehrmacht, quarters, pioneers, all that being rushed out in the beginning of the map. So of course we can do a bit of talk of other bits, like for example the Panzer Lehr being a rather elite panzer division formed under the insistence of General Panzer Inspector Heinz Guderian, since he figured he might use some of those training personnel who were in fact quite veteran troops and officers and all that, and so to sort of help with the manpower problem, constitute all those chaps into an elite armor division, the Panzer Lehr, the Lehr actually sort of meaning training. It was, and of course we are seeing a bit of good sportsmanship there, nothing wrong in that. So there you go, the Panzer Lehr fought in Anzio, then in Normandy after having been reconstituted, and then afterwards they'd fight slowly in the Western Front as they were pushed back towards there. Don't think they ever actually reached the Eastern Front until very late, perhaps, when they were rushed in. And yes, going out again, we're not seeing a lot really here in the beginning. We are seeing Volkskraniers and riflemen from either side. Other things to mention there, and of course we are rather close to August, which apparently holds the portent of an announcement of the next company of heroes. Mind you, it is only a rumor, but it seems to be a good one. So let us all hope we are seeing the next company of heroes there. What it will be, I have no idea. I suppose it could be the Ardennes or the Eastern Front. For the Ardennes, I suppose we do have the fact that for company of heroes online there was created the Sherman Ace, which in fact is the Sherman EC8, which in fact came into action by 1944 December, that is, by the time of the Battle of the Bulge, as it is known by the Americans. For the rest, it's just known as the Battle for the Ardennes. Nonetheless, we are seeing Volkskraniers and bike going straight for this strategic cutoff point, of course controlling the resources for this area. And why is this important, you ask? Well, these 4 fuel points making it a rather decisive point to of course be able to cut off, in particular this +10 fuel point. Engineers getting torn apart, bike really doing quite a bit there. Riflemen though charging in, forcing the Volkskraniers to pull back to a slightly better defensible position. Most likely this nice 2-story house with lots of windows, albeit in the southern side only 3, so in that sense it's perhaps best only for an MG42. Engineers sneaking in from the east, further riflemen coming out from the barracks, and of course another rifleman team moving in from the west, having seized that fuel point there, probably going to take up positions right at this wrecked pickup truck, and of course around the Volkskraniers in there. No further reinforcements for Gaurav though. Wehrmacht quarters still producing, I wager. And these chaps are not looking too happy. The bike doing a bit to put some pressure on the riflemen, but not doing too well. Volkskraniers down to 3 men, and we'll have to retreat leaning behind the bike. Not a happy situation, but Volkskraniers are moving in from the south. The Americans do seem to have the upper hand slightly at the moment. with further riflemen hitting the field, and most of the fuel in this area so far in the hands of them. They just need to actually connect it up. Riflemen coming under fire though while trying to take this point. Not the best situation they want to be in. Getting out of range a bit, and Bike getting out of there, but riflemen are focusing in, moving in from all sides, swarming the Volksgrenadiers who are hiding in the ditch. They will have to get out of there before all is lost. Again, if you're being outnumbered, sometimes the best thing is just to get out of there as swiftly as possible rather than lose men and valuable health and of course time. MG42 now joining in, suppressing these riflemen right here as they're going for the strategic cutoff point. But of course, it is rendered neutral. Of course, another thing to note is right here and here, high yield munitions point, which of course also rather makes these 2 points rather valuable to harass. We also have one here, but it's even on a longer change of strategic points, not only this one, but this one. So of course such things are good to keep in mind. MG42 setting up apparently to keep those riflemen inside the building. Not entirely sure if there's another way out. There is in fact a door right at the rear, so of course those riflemen can be quick to get out of there if necessary. And Bike moving about a bit on the open dusty roads. Volksgrenadiers moving towards the north, apparently not entirely sure, perhaps hoping to go for a strategic cutoff point, but they are finding themselves outnumbered, and now flamethrowers. No, flamethrowers getting out of there. Riflemen setting up a position in the opposite ditch. Volksgrenadiers though looking to be down to half health. They might not win. MG42 continuing to keep those riflemen inside that house. One rifleman is down. Another Volksgrenadier is lost. Another down to 3 in fact, and we might be seeing more from the north. There we go, 4 rifleman teams. The usual thing you might see from the Americans. There we go, another Volksgrenadier is lost in the fire. And further are moving about here, securing the central territories, and of course all the fuel there is. A larger Wehrmacht forces moving in, numerous MG42s this time around. Riflemen moving about, getting fired upon by the one MG42. Now in fact dual MG42s firing away, forcing those riflemen to get out of there most swiftly, lest they want to be lost in the fire of MG42 bullets. And we are seeing some American troops maneuvering in the rear there. Wehrmacht forces pushing up towards open terrain, using the advantage of the MG42s there. Volksgrenadiers, pioneers quick to lay down some barbed wire to apparently cover up this area. Interesting. But ultimately pushing towards this area. MG42 setting up rather closely to each other. Hopefully the Americans won't have any mortars. Of course they don't. I know that, you know that, but of course Major Gaurav does not know that, and in Itaperuna keeps pressing onwards now with BARs. Of course, one thing to note, you don't want your MG42 crews or any heavy machine gun teams to be standing out in the open. They can in fact take quite a bit of damage. And in fact, you might be noticing they're already deeply wounded. And there we go, forced retreat riflemen pushing through in the north, slaughtering Volksgrenadiers leaving behind only the bike, and of course several MG42 teams, while the one has already been outmaneuvered. Volksgrenadiers moving in from the south. This is quite a lot of pressure. Northern riflemen under a lot of fire. Southern forcing back the Volksgrenadiers. And looks like these riflemen will have to get out there. Will they be lost? Might be it. No, barely getting out there, but the other riflemen are getting suppressed by the MG42. Quite a lot of fighting around these victory points so far. Here, here, and now there. So again, this map is going to be rather central around those strategic points, and perhaps a interesting idea would be to provide some field defenses for that point, so at least you can be somewhat secure in mind. And of course supplies. Riflemen moving in from the south, putting up some fire here. Bike opening up in counter fire, doing a bit of damage. Riflemen charging in and coming under the aegis of the MG42 across the road, killing one rifleman, wounding him quite fatally, forcing the rest to retreat. And we are seeing a larger Wehrmacht force moving out. Volksgrenadier teams not fully reinforced, so apparently must have gotten a bit impatient, rather wanting troops to hit the field and going for this strategic point. Of course, not there's a lot to gain there, but of course at the same time this has been taken, of course rendering all of this for the Americans pretty much useless. MG42 once more opening fire from across the road. Again, it's a rather exposed situation. Large American force, well, medium American force moving in. Flamethrowers and BARs forcing the MG42 to get out of there. Second one taking up position in this house. These riflemen are going to be rather in a tricky situation. Volksgrenadier team forced backwards, and now the MG42 is forced out of the building. Bike once more acting as the rear guard. 7 kills so far, actually, quite impressive. But not looking good for Gaurav at the moment. The Americans are really keeping up the pressure, but one thing that is bothering me is why isn't he laying down some mines or barbed wire or something? I mean, the logical thing would be to actually try and make it harder for the Wehrmacht to actually counterattack by, for example, using mines, for example, near the outmost territories, for example, here, here, and here would be a good spot, or for example, around this oft harassed point. Mines can really make a difference, so of course, if we can use them, and now engineers are coming under fire straight away from the MG42. And we are seeing riflemen sneaking about, skulking about in the shadows, taking this victory point back for Uncle Sam. While we are seeing a Krieg barracks going up for the brave boys of the Wehrmacht, and of course a Kampfkraftcenter as well. MG42 setting up in another position. Of course now at this point it's also being harassed, really cutting off Gaurav from most of his territory. In fact, let's go have a look at him. Of course barely having any population left, since he doesn't even have much territory. And not a lot of resources coming in either. 10 fuel and 10 munitions. This is certainly not his happy day. The American commander clearly has a lot more. In fact, just look at it here. Of course, this point has been seized, so he does have some minor connection here. But of course, the Americans are swift to try and ruin that. German forces moving up towards some sort of small trench, natural type, not man-made. And we are seeing some riflemen moving towards the central ditch, and might find itself faced by grenadiers on MG42. Kampfkraftcenter going for some veterancy 1 for infantry and support weapons. Volksgrenadiers getting surrounded from all sides by automatic fire. 2 men are down. The rest will have to retreat before all is lost. And there we go. Second team of Volksgrenadiers having a small rest, apparently. I'm not entirely sure, while Grenadiers are pushing towards this fuel point. Mind you, Grenadiers are about as fast at seizing territory as riflemen. The same applies to stormtroopers. So of course they can be used, and Volksgrenadiers with skirmish phase are alright, but of course not as fast as Grenadiers or riflemen. And looks like we are seeing some engineers making the push forwards, riflemen as well. And riflemen coming under quite a bit of fire. Grenadiers taking up positions in the house. Panzer Lehr infantry really doing the best, but engineers with flamethrowers moving in, threatening the position. In particular the Grenadiers inside. Or what is this? Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251, Half-Track-Schützen-Panzerwagen. There to rescue the entire situation by offering, of course, reinforcements, and of course 2 light machine guns. Very nice weapon, can really help if your opponent is suddenly trying to attack from all sides. Then those 2 machine guns can be helpful. Duel here between riflemen and an MG42. Do believe the MG42 will win this, and indeed in 1 rifleman is already down. Second MG42 setting up in this position, really keeping the pressure on here. In fact, we are seeing 2 MG42s in these buildings, rather creating a strong point. And heavier firepower from the Americans will be needed. We're seeing a supply yard, triage center, and a motor pool up, so we might see some vehicles. And riflemen taking quite a bit of damage, but sticky bomb off on the half-track, damaging the engine, and of course, brief pause. We are seeing some pioneers having been in there. That's a good move. It's one I use myself. Basically, having a 2-man pioneer team to in there man the guns basically means you don't have to worry about having anything else there, which could be more useful in actual fighting. And of course, if the half-track suffers damage, you can pull back, pop the pioneers out, repair the half-track, and get back in the action most swiftly. So rather good combination there, half-track and pioneers, or half-track and engineers. Keep that in mind. And returning to the match. And let us return to Itaperuna. Fighting continuing here, MG42's blasting away. Once more harassment here. One thing I can't help but notice is that it does seem like Itaperuna is rather spreading out his riflemen, not really concentrating for any sort of effect. At the same time, he's also lacking any sort of heavy weapons, which could also be helpful in digging out those German forces.